Hey, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the post-fight show on The Mandatory. If you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also follow us on our social media channels. We're at The Mandatory TKO, and we just witnessed an absolute classic. Oleksandr Usyk won by split decision. Now the scorecards, as the judges had it, was 115-112 to Oleksandr Usyk, 114 to 113 for Tyson Fury. And then I believe Oleksandr Usyk with a 114-113 scorecard for him. So Oleksandr Usyk is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He just edges Tyson Fury. There is a rematch clause. So it was said that we will be getting this fight again in October. But Bryan, this was a great fight. We're going to get into all the post-fight stuff in just a moment because there's a lot to get into. But your thoughts on what we just saw, and were you okay with how the scorecards went for Oleksandr Usyk?
Yes, I was glad that I wanted to avoid just robbery discussions. And I feel like if Tyson Fury won, a lot of people would have said that because Oleksandr Usyk got the knockdown. He finished strong. Those are the people who support that fighter are usually the ones who cry robbery in the end. So I feel like ultimately the judges scored it fairly, scored it well, and got it right. Ultimately, I thought Usyk edged it out exactly 114, 113. We had the same score as we were talking about this. We had different methods of getting there because I think we had a few rounds different, but a lot of the rounds were close. A lot of the rounds were close in this fight. It was an excellent, excellent fight. Like everything I said in terms of it being a stylistically beautiful boxing match, we saw why. The knockdown ultimately decided it because if not for the knockdown, we would have had a draw, which I said sprinkle plus 1400. I had Tyson Fury by decision plus 220. Neither of those hit, but over half a knockdown did at minus 110.
My bet definitely hit. I had it Usyk by decision, but I
Yeah,
also really liked that draw. And as we were getting closer to the fight, I was like, the draw might be good. I thought
we
Tyson
almost
Fury
got it.
started off. Yeah, I thought Tyson Fury started off pretty strong. If Fury would have got the decision, I also wouldn't have been mad. That's how close this fight was. There was a lot of rounds that were extremely close. And for the Usyk fans, if Fury would have won, would scream robbery. I don't know if people would scream robbery, Bryan, just because the fight was so close. So if it went to Fury, whatever, that's great. But it went to Usyk. I think the judges got it right based off my scorecard, 114, 113. But nonetheless, I think if it went either way, I don't think anyone would be upset. Let's get into some of the post-fight stuff because there was something, and I told Bryan I was going to go in on this one. Tyson Fury said that Oleksandr Usyk got the decision because his country is at war. That's the most classless thing I've heard someone say in an extremely long time. There's people dying in his country. There's people fighting for his country. And for Tyson Fury, just take the L and move on, bro. That's literally what it is. Take the L and move on. There's a rematch. If you think you can beat Oleksandr Usyk, come back in October and beat him. Don't say that he won the fight because his country is at war. I was absolutely disgusted with his post-fight commentary.
Yeah, not great. Tyson Fury has a list of questionable things that he said before. In this sport, these things sort of happen, unfortunately. And I kind of wish he hadn't said that. I do feel like that's something that's going to be a takeaway going away from this. It was such a great boxing match. You don't want it to get stepped on by stupid ass shit that Tyson Fury basically is saying at the end of a fight.
What's
So,
new though? Because he's always saying something stupid. But
yeah,
that was probably one of the dumbest things that he said.
that
And
was bad.
it's
Oh,
horrible.
boy.
Like, I'm glad he lost. Like go back into the locker room and cry because that was absolutely brutal. But enough with that. I'm just angry that he said that because people are losing their lives in this war. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, like Bryan said, let's focus on the fight. I think the judges got it right. And the great thing about it though is regardless of who won and regardless of Tyson's terrible comments, the boxing fans won today
Yes.
because this was an absolute classic. And I want to get to, by the way, guys, keep the comments coming because we are going to get into all your comments. But I think this is a good one because I knew that the scorecards were going to be all over the place. Hustle
Mhm.
Man, a friend of the show, thank you for joining us. He said, was it as close as it seemed? I had Usyk 8 rounds to 4. I'm going to turn off all my notifications because they popping off right now. It's the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, game's
Some
about
big
to start.
games.
Yeah.
Anyways, nonetheless, though, I feel like I feel like a lot of people early on, I was on Twitter, I was on X, and some people had like Usyk up 3-0 in the first round. So the scorecards I felt like were going to be all over the place, but that's because of how close it was, Brian.
Yeah, 8-4 would be 116, 111 Usyk. So when you frame it that way, it probably isn't as crazy. I didn't have that, but that just means I gave Tyson Fury 2 more rounds than Hustleman did. Somebody else was like discussing with me on Twitter basically, and we're still calling it Twitter, even though they finally changed it from Twitter to X.com. Somebody was like, "Hey, Usyk should have won by at least 2 points," and I was like, "Bro, I had it by a point. Like, it's not a big deal." You know what I mean? But I think ultimately, I don't see a lot of people upset with the decision, which is great. I think if you had Tyson Fury winning the fight, 114, 113, maybe as far as you can go. This is kind of like, and we talked about this recently, actually. It's kind of like the Andre Ward Sergey Kovalev fight, where a lot of the split rounds, like Andre Ward kind of got all of them, which is fine. I thought he deserved to win that fight. Some other people didn't. But Kovalev, for some people, had the fight 116, 111, 115, 112, even though Andre Ward got it like 114, 113, whatever. So similar to that. But and one of the other things we got to mention, because I want to get to a bunch of other comments. We got a lot of other comments here. The knockdown, which could have been a knockout, it was said after the fight, even like, "Hey, I think Usyk." It was his promoter, Alex Krasser, and basically was like, "I think he got robbed of a knockout in round 9." And I saw some other people were saying the same thing. You seem to agree with that. I'm not quite there. Like
What
but
I'm
I do
saying
think it
is,
could have been officiated a little bit better if I want to be picked.
what I'm saying is, if they would have stopped the fight right there and then, I wouldn't have been mad. There are stoppages where I'm like, why did they stop that? But if they would have stopped it right there and then, because Fury didn't even look like he knew where he was at, right? And they gave him a little bit of time, but at some points his eyes were like going to the back of his head. He was wobbling. If it would have been stopped, I wouldn't have been mad, and I wouldn't have said it was an early stoppage. That's the only thing I'm saying. That they let the fight continue to go. Fury recovered like how he always does. It's amazing. I don't know what's in that man's body, but it's something that's superhuman, dude.
But that's why, hopefully not unnatural. But that's why I had no problem with it. If anything, just call the knock, like give him the standing 8 count sooner, right? Instead of like letting him just wobble around the ring for a little bit longer. Do it a few seconds sooner. But to me, I didn't have an issue with it because we've seen, one, the round was about to end, as we saw. He got saved by the bell. But two, we've seen Tyson Fury recover from big knockdowns, from Deontay Wilder, from Francis Ngannou last year. He's been knocked down 7, now 8 times in his career after this one. And his recovery is just, I don't know who else recovers like that from a knockdown, because I feel like he won the round after that, or at least the round after the round after that. Like the next 2 rounds were competitive, and then I feel like Usyk sort of took it from him at the very end. But yeah, I mean, his recovery is insane.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like in that round when he came back, because the knockdown happened in the 9th round and he came back in the 10th,
Yeah.
and that one could have gone either way,
Mhm.
depending on if you gave it to Usyk or Fury. I ended up giving it to Usyk, but I remember watching that round and being like, that could have gone to Fury. And I don't know how he recovered. It was
The
absolutely amazing.
on the broadcast, the guy gave it 10-10
I hate
the
rounds
very
like
next
that.
round. I
I
don't like
hate
that
that.
either.
I
I don't
hate
like
that.
that
It's like
either.
just give. I understand rounds are close, but that's like my biggest pet peeve is a 10-10 round. Give it to someone. You know what I mean? Brian and I were watching it and like texting each other throughout the fight, and I was like, I hate that, dude. Like
Yeah,
just give it to someone. Let's get into
yeah.
some comments right now, Brian, and then let's move over to what's next. We kind of know what's next, but we can also talk about the impact of this fight.
Yeah, especially
Um,
because we got playoffs to get to. But
yeah.
yes, we're gonna talk about this. Let's see what we have here. I'm gonna go back to the very beginning. We didn't put Mateo up. Well deserved. The body shots were hitting early for Usyk. Then the overhand left was a problem. So that's something that was interesting to me early on, like stylistically. Tyson Fury, I feel like he won many of the early and middle rounds because of his jab and because he invested into the body early. And as it was beginning to really pay off, he got floored. But he invested into 2 very important things early. And I always wonder, all right, how's the orthodox fighter going to establish his jab against a southpaw? Because it's a little bit of a different practice, as we all know. he also followed it up with the body shots, and the rap on Usyk has been like, hey, he doesn't love body shots. Now I don't know who does, but he had the Danny Dubois thing last year, yada yada yada. And Usyk during that time, he wasn't as busy as I thought he would be, but he was more accurate than Tyson Fury, which you noted as we were texting about this. And
Yeah.
he was landing a lot more looping left hands than I thought he would. And it makes sense, right? You're the shorter fighter. You don't have the range advantage at all. Like this, you're going to have to resort to those things. And he was doing it accurately. His timing was really good. Stylistically, it was beautiful. But yeah, what were your sort of observations about how this began and then how it sort of progressed?
Well, I think the great thing about Tyson Fury is that he had established the jab. And I think if you were going to just go off that, you would give him a lot of the rounds. But I felt like Usyk was getting busy to the body. He was absolutely accurate. And the rounds were so close that it could have gone either way, because after 8 rounds, I had it scored 4-4. And I remember you were like, I don't have that score. But we ended up getting
5-3
to, yeah, we ended up
for
getting
Fury.
to, yes. And I had it a draw after 8. Right. And that's because both of these guys were doing so many things that were well. The one thing where I think Fury messed up is I figured he would impose his will a little bit more in this fight because he is the bigger fighter. Right. So I felt like Fury had to go a little bit early because I was also concerned about the pace, the conditioning that Fury would have. I think I hit you up in the 5th round. I'm like, yo, his chin's hanging, like he's getting tired. But then he had a great 5th round. Like that was like one of Fury's best rounds, I feel like. But nonetheless, I just feel like it was so close, but I love the way they fought. Like an absolutely beautiful performance. The bigger guy was able to establish the jab, get to the body, and I wanted to see more uppercuts from Tyson Fury.
Yes, because it was the Dillian White thing all over again, where that was sort of his money punch early on, and he went away from it a little bit. Lou DiBella tweeted out, and we're gonna get to IMPK13's comment here and others. Lou DiBella tweeted out that the broken nose Tyson Fury apparently looked like he had may have altered this fight, and I wonder that because he did look kind of gassed early, but then he recovered as he does, and he was sort of like making the motion at his nose, like with his glove early on. Like he was doing that from like round 1 or 2, and he was doing that for the entire fight. So I missed where, like whether or not it was a punch or whatever the case may be. Sometimes guys carry injuries from sparring and from training into a fight. Like we hear this about it all the time. Some guys make excuses on those sort of things. But yeah, so IMPK 13, congrats to Usyk. Fury should have come forward like in the second Wilder fight, which that's the only one that he completely dominated Wilder. He won the third and arguably the first, but that's the one where he like destroyed Wilder. I wonder if the weight loss affected Fury's chin.
Yo, he was still like way bigger than Oleksandr Usyk. So I don't think that weight loss like was that big of a deal because I wanted to take a look at a tweet. Fury was 15.7 pounds lighter than his last fight. Usyk was 12.6 pounds heavier than his last fight. But Tyson Fury came in at 262 at the weigh-in and Oleksandr Usyk 233 and a half.
223 because they corrected it after.
Okay,
which did 233 didn't make sense. I was like, Usyk doesn't look that big.
Yeah. So that was a tweet from Michael Benson that he tweeted around 11:17 a.m. Pacific time here on the West Coast. But Fury was way bigger. So when I think about him imposing his will, I feel like we didn't get that. I wish he pressured Usyk a little bit more, but that's why I think Usyk, when you think about those rounds going to Fury or Usyk, because they were so close, I feel like Usyk dominated the center of the ring, which is what you want to do when you're a southpaw. That's how you win rounds.
And when you're smaller.
Yes, exactly. Let's go to a very good friend of the show, Jesus. Thank you for rocking with us. Usyk now number 1 pound for pound. By the way, if you haven't been with us on any of these lives or post-fight shows, Jesus always brings the heat. So I'm going to get into his next comment because I'm not surprised at this. Usyk facing 50 pounds heavier, but fake Nello not willing to face 25 pounds more.
I'm not talking about Canelo. You know why we're not? Because in 2 weeks, Frank Martin, Gervonta Davis, David Benavidez are all going to be fighting. And we're planning a live for that. So we can get to Canelo in 2 weeks. Hustle Man agrees. I'll put Usyk pound for pound number 1 as of right now.
So I think that's the question. Yeah.
The consensus was he's number 3, and this is probably the clip that we're going to cut. the consensus was that Oleksandr Usyk was number 3 behind Naoya Inoue, Terrence Crawford, Naoya Inoue, whatever the order you have it. Does he leapfrog both of them now after beating Tyson Fury, even though the fight was pretty close?
I think it's really tough because we just saw Naoya Inoue again dominate Luis Nery.
Yes.
And that's a name in the division. Inoue continues to do it. He continues to get these stoppages, and he's continuing to dominate these weight classes. So if you have him 1 or 1A, 1B, because Terrence Bud Crawford, his last performance, I don't care if it was almost a year ago, Brian, what he did to Errol Spence Jr. And at the time, you know, a lot of people were going for Spence. Let's keep it real here, because people were like, you know what, Spence has the better resume, but Bud was knocking out everyone or getting the stoppage when he came into the welterweight division. Now, if you have it, Terrence Bud Crawford number 1, Inoue number 2, like, I'm not going to be mad at you, but Oleksandr Usyk, when you take a look at his resume looks really good. I mean, he has a win over Tyson Fury. He's beat Anthony Joshua 2 times, who I believe has the best heavyweight resume. I wouldn't be mad if you had Oleksandr Usyk as number 1 pound for pound right now. But I still have Inoue because he's busier than the other 2. And then I have Terrence Bud Crawford. I still have Usyk number 3 for me, but I got to watch back that fight. And I say that because I go back and there's one fight that I continuously watch all the time, maybe a couple of times a year. Brian might know this one. It's Oscar De La Hoya and Trinidad. And I go back and I try to score it every time. And because you know what I mean? I go back. I watch this fight like 3 times a year because if you watch the show, I grew up like a big Oscar fan, West Coast roots and everything. So I go back and I try to rescore that fight. I want to go back and rescore this fight and still see if I get Usyk. But nonetheless, great performance by Usyk. You know, I think a lot of people were thinking Tyson Fury would just impose his will. I still have Usyk as, you know what? I have Usyk number 2. I gotta see Bud fight. I gotta see Bud fight because he just beat Tyson Fury. Like, he just beat Tyson Fury.
I can't move Crawford from 1 to 3. Here's the thing: not moving Oleksandr Usyk to 2 or 1 feels wrong after having him at 3 after this.
That's why I said let me move him up to 2 because Bud's gonna fight in August, and then I'll move Bud right back up. You know, because it's about like how busy they are.
Right, but also Crawford and Inoue are more dominant. Now, I wish Crawford would fight more than once a year. He hasn't done that since 2019, but every time we've seen him, he has destroyed whoever he's fought, including Errol Spence. We'll see what happens in August.
That was a murder. That was like not even like destroyed. Like, Spence got murdered. Like,
that was seriously. Yeah, that was really bad. And then Inoue got dropped by Luis Nery, and he didn't lose like another second of that fight. Maybe round 2, like Nery, I thought had a couple other moments, and then Inoue shut that shit down.
See, I want to go back to what you said about dominance because Usyk cleaned out the cruiserweight division.
Yeah.
Went into the heavyweight division. Everyone's like, he's the smaller guy. And a lot of people thought that AJ would beat him. Usyk schooled him twice, in my opinion.
Yeah, although
like,
some people think the second one was a split decision. Some people think that fight was really close. I don't think he dominated AJ the second time, but I had him winning. You know, I had him winning like safely.
Yeah, which is dominance to me. Like, if someone's winning safely, like split decision, maybe that has something to do because Eddie Hearn loves himself some Anthony Joshua. I don't know, but
if we're getting nitpicky, dominance is probably like 117, 111 on, and I had it 116, 112.
Okay, I got you. I think dominance is like the Undertaker at WrestleMania or something like that.
Oh yeah,
you're right. That's dominance.
You want to get into wrestling, man, you know?
But Brian, I want to ask you the same question, and I want you to kind of get in depth with it. Do you believe after this fight that Oleksandr Usyk is pound for pound number 1 on that list?
He has a case, but again, I don't know how I knock off. Like, how do I knock off Naoya Inoue or Terrence Crawford? Like, Terrence Crawford to me is pound for pound better than everyone else. He's been the most dominant in his career out of everyone we're talking about. Like, has Terrence Crawford had a close fight ever? You know, like, has he had a fight where he fought Sean Porter after Sean Porter had a close fight with Errol Spence and he destroyed him? Like,
By the way, I had that as a draw, Spence and Sean Porter. I didn't have Spence like distinctively beating Sean Porter in that fight, but it was also a different Sean Porter when Bud fought him. I just want to
yeah,
put that out there.
Crawford's had like there have been Mean Machine looked like he knocked him down at one point. Yuriorkis Gamboa had a couple moments early on, but like he has for the most part wiped out everyone in a way also, except for the second Nonito Donaire fight. Or the first Nonito Donaire fight. The second one he destroyed him. And this Lewis Neri fight, he got knocked down, but then after that, he woke up and did what he does. Usyk's had closer fights, but ultimately it's splitting hairs. Like these are far and away the best three guys in the sport. If I had to choose, I don't know. I don't know if a split decision, and a close fight over Tyson Fury, granted he got the victory, is gonna get me to move Inoue or Terrence Crawford down. Terrence Crawford, the case is there because of like his inactivity. He hasn't fought twice in a year since 2019, and then Inoue got dropped in his last fight. But at the same time, like you know, if you have Usyk 2-1 now after this and move him up, like I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh, you're stupid, you don't know shit. No, like no. But to me, I can't quite get there. If Usyk got the knockout in round 9, like people thought he should have, then I'm probably like, oh man, like I might have to move this dude up.
For me, it's just whoever's fighting. Like, I'm very fickle with this because they're so good. I'm just going to keep it real
Recency
with
bias.
you. Yeah, that's what it is for me. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys about it. Okay. Anyway, beats Lewis Neri. Yo, we're number 1. You know what I mean? Bud's going to fight in August. And I think he's going to have a good performance. And he'll probably move back up to number 1 for me. But for me, just having Tyson Fury on your resume, also beating Anthony Joshua Tice, regardless of what you think of him, that's such an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A win is a win. Like, I'm a Raiders fan. I don't care if we win ugly. That's a win to me. You know what I mean? So the fact that he has Tyson Fury on his resume, he's undisputed at heavyweight. The last time we saw that, I was like 10 years old.
Oh, 6.
So it's crazy to me. So I had to move him up ahead of Bud for now. And I'm a big Bud Crawford fan, but in August, that could easily change. Let's get to some comments.
Let's go to Brewski because we haven't put him on yet. Shout out to Brewski. Thank you for contributing to the show. We're gonna post some others. True back and forth fight. Glad the judges got it right. Not sure why Usyk turns all his opponents into spoken word MCs.
This is true because look at what Anthony Joshua did after their fight. Oh my god.
Listen, I'm always here for the jokes. Strike First FC, who has also dropped a couple other comments here. Fury made a mistake by not following up whenever he got rocked or hurt Usyk. He landed several body shots that backed Usyk up. Tyson never capitalized. Again, I wonder if that goes back to the broken nose thing, but also, like, I agree. There were spots where he rocked Usyk, particularly early on, that I felt like he could have really put his foot on the gas and, if not drop him, like, dominate the round. And there were times where he didn't do it. He felt like it's like he didn't want to get in the inside against a smaller fighter, which you can see, in terms of stylistically, but I do think that he may have missed a couple opportunities there.
Yeah, I believe so because I feel like he was having success with that uppercut. The timing was there too. I just felt like Usyk for some rounds did a little bit more in terms of accuracy, but Tyson Fury's work rate was pretty good. His jab was really good. Like I said, if he would have won this fight, I would not say anything about it. The only thing I'm mad about is post-fight interview. I got beef with him now after that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like rooting for him to lose after he said that. Let's go to our boy Jay over here. Usyk deserves number 1.
We're getting that. Strike First FC disagrees. Says that Inoue is still number 1. And Luis Porto is very, very excited about Usyk. Anthony Beck, because you were putting this one up and I blocked your shot for a second. Anthony Beck said Fury looked like he saw a ghost in the 9th round.
I don't think he knew where he was. I think he thought he was in the UK because his eyes, I was scared for him at one point. I was just like, this doesn't look good. But then he came back in the next round and it looked like nothing happened. And I'm like, what is in this man's body? Because I feel like he was close to taking a nap. Like he was about to get tucked in for a nap. and then all of a sudden he's like awake like a baby at 5 a.m. or something like that. You know what I mean? So I just think it's so commendable the way he recovers, and I've never seen anything really like it, Bryan.
I can't think of anyone else who recovers like that. We mentioned him earlier, maybe Felix Trinidad, because he had a thing where it's like he would take a shot. You know what I'm saying? Where he would get knocked down early in the fight, round 1, round 2, whatever. He'll go back to the corner. His corner will slap the shit out of him, literally slap him forward and backwards, and then he'll go out and fuck the other person up. The only times it didn't work was Bernard Hopkins in his prime, and then obviously, you know, the other 2 times we're not going to talk about.
I want to put this one up. Jesus, if Crawford beats David Benavidez, then he is pound for pound number 1. Well, you know what? If he did that, I would say that Bud would be the GOAT. Like if he beat David Benavidez, right? Obviously moving up.
We're not entertaining this. Come on.
I'm entertaining it because it's good. Thank you, Jesus. And then he beat Canelo. Like, yo, he would be like GOAT status, Muhammad Ali type thing for me.
I did find it interesting that Undisputed, which I want to talk about. Undisputed.
We are going to next
yes,
week. Yeah.
I absolutely want to talk about this. In the preview, in the trailer, Tyson Fury is fighting Oleksandr Usyk, obviously, but also Canelo's fighting Terrence Crawford, and I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know if there's any level of foreshadowing there. Again, I don't think that fight is going to happen. The IBF, I think, ordered him to fight. I don't even know who that Skull.
Yeah,
whatever his name is. Like,
yeah, I was like, who? I was like, what? Canelo. But then I figured
we follow the sport very closely, and I've seen William Skull, I believe is his name. I've seen his name around, but I could not tell you if I remember. I don't think watching him fight.
Yeah,
a lot of people were like, "Yo, like I watch boxing, and like, why no one wants to see this?"
When I saw that, I was just like, why am I not seeing the young Puerto Rican king? Fight him, or why am I not seeing
Edgar Berlanga versus Caleb Plant? I want to see that first.
Yeah,
Luis Porto says 30 pounds between Usyk and Fury. Usyk is pound for pound number 1. I think it's actually more because it was tweeted out by Michael Benson that Usyk actually should have been 223, not 233.
That's ridiculous, dude. Like, that's what you call going to be a weight bully and not really bullying a thing. You know what I mean? Like, let's go to Hustle Man. Usyk just beat the best heavyweight on the planet. So I do got to chill, but that's a very impressive win. That's what I mean. Like, regardless if you had it close or not, a win is a win on the resume. And sure, we could take a look at a lot of fighters, Canelo, where you're like, I don't know if he beat Arislandi Lara, but he has the win.
We brought up Trinidad De La Hoya.
Yeah, and I'm gonna probably watch that fight sometime this month and try to rescore it because I do it like 3 times a year.
Yeah,
and I've done that.
You're gonna watch it next week as Josh Taylor's fighting Jack Catterall.
Oh my God, let me get my blanket ready because that's a snooze fest to me. But we'll be breaking it down, guys. Let's go to my.
I kind of like that fight.
I don't care. I'm gonna get my blanket, turn on the heat, take a nice nap, wake up. We're not doing a post-fight show for that, guys, so don't expect that one. Anthony Beck, Shantelle about to beat Drake Kendrick Lamar since she got beef with Fury now. But except for Fury would be Drake then, because I mean he's saying all the wrong things socially. You know what I mean? He's saying all the wrong things socially. You know.
Let's go back to another question we had here. This is about tonight, real quick. Jesus, are you watching Navarrete, which we did talk about this week? We're not doing a post-fight show for it. Because
it's too much playoff stuff.
It's a lot going on.
But that's a banger. The whole card is dope. Like
Richard Torres versus Brandon Moore is a classic showbox fight.
Yeah, I believe so. And I think Navarrete and Berinchek is going to be a banger. And I would not sleep on Berinchek. Like, because Navarrete's weird. He does everything weird and then he wins. And I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, and it's going to be popping at Pachanga, one of the worst arenas I've ever been in. Just rats running around. Just like rats running around at Pachanga. They need a new stadium there.
We got that in New York too, but it's outside Madison Square Garden, not inside. Drake bet $565,000 on Tyson Fury to win.
The Drake curse. Stop it, Drake. Okay. Just another L that he took this month. Anyways,
when I saw that posted, I was immediately worried. I was like, shit. Because I had Tyson Fury winning by decision. But we hit the knockdown bet. So
all I know is he better not say go Knicks tomorrow. Like, I'm going to be pissed because this is the Drake curse. He takes L's. Tyson Fury just lost. Stay away from the Knicks, Drake. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't know who he'd bet on because Siakam and OG both came from the Raptors, but
That's true. But nonetheless, guys, any final comments, get them in
yes.
because we're about to piece up out of here. Bryan, your final thoughts on what we saw today?
Excellent boxing match. We should mention rematch. Somebody shouted October. I think it was Tyson Fury. But there we mentioned early on in the show today and earlier this week rematch clause. I'm sure it's going to be activated. Everyone's sort of acknowledging that. We all know that this is something that could be a trilogy. Like if Tyson Fury actually wins the next fight, there should be a third. Apologies to Anthony Joshua. You may have to wait your turn, but you should have probably beat Oleksandr Usyk one of the first 2 times, and this could have been avoided. So I think ultimately, like I'm going to be super excited for the rematch. I think the odds are going to be similar, but Usyk's going to be a slight favorite, probably a little bit more than he was going into this fight in at least 1 or 2 prominent sports books because it was all over the place.
One more question before we get up and out of here. Do we want to see Anthony Joshua and Oleksandr Usyk again? Because
No.
I don't. I want to see
No.
AJ and Tyson Fury.
Agree. I'd rather Usyk beat Fury again, and then we get Fury versus AJ. But this is a difficult thing when like somebody else doesn't break through. So I'm hoping that we do get the rematch. I don't know what that means. Like, is Anthony Joshua going to fight Filip Hrgović all of a sudden? You know what I mean? Like, is that something that's going to happen? And I'm sure that, we have coming up soon here, Deontay Wilder versus Zhilei Zhang. And that's, because on the Better BF Bivol card, like that fight is no longer happening because Better BF got hurt again, unfortunately. But the winner of Deontay Wilder versus Zhilei Zhang could get in this mix. Like, what if because we've already seen Usyk versus Joshua twice, there's a world where we eventually get after Usyk, let's say Usyk beats Fury again, there's a world where it's like, okay, Deontay Wilder versus Oleksandr Usyk,
Oh my God.
Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury,
Yeah.
and I would love that. I would love to watch both of those fights. I don't think Wilder's gonna like outbox Oleksandr Usyk or whatever, but if there's one dude still on planet Earth that you're giving a puncher's chance against anybody,
Deontay.
yeah.
Even though he looked extremely terrible in his last fight. The one guy that I'm really curious about seeing in August is Andy Ruiz, because he's been inactive for a while, but one of the heavyweights that I really always look forward to because the speed is there, and he's just looking better in shape every time I see any of his stuff. So I want to see what Andy Ruiz does in his next fight, because I feel like his name in this heavyweight division is pretty interesting.
Needs to be active. One other guy we got to mention. Ajit Caballel, who knocked out Frank Sanchez.
I didn't expect that from Frank Sanchez. Like, extremely disappointed. He looked terrible. Like, he looked terrible tonight, and I didn't expect that.
That dude is a problem. I don't think he's gonna like beat Oleksandr Usyk, Tyson Fury. Like, I don't think that necessarily, and he's 31 already, so he kind of has to, maybe he fights Filip Hrgović, who knows? But there's a lot of interesting fights you can make in the heavyweight division, and Jared Anderson is gonna have to fight at some point. There's been rumors about him fighting Deontay Wilder, which, oh my God, like, you want to talk about something that could legitimately be like explosive and not go on for very long. And then I think this is a little more distant, but the Richard Torres Brandon Moore fight tonight is interesting because the winner, and I think it'll be Richard Torres, but the winner is probably going to be poised to have a party crashing year in 2025 where they start getting surfaced in some of these bigger fights as they progress up. So a lot of interesting heavyweights in the world right now.
Yeah, and I do believe the next great American heavyweight is Richard Torres. I would take him over Big Baby. Just
next
right
great
now.
Mexican one too.
yeah. And by the way, guys, we do have an interview with Richard Torres that we did sometime last year. So go check that out. That's on our YouTube page. But thank you for everyone that rocked with us tonight. We had a lot of people join us. Thank you so much. If you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Also follow us on our social media channels. Congrats to the undisputed king at heavyweight, Oleksandr Usyk. And thanks so much for rocking with the show. Bryan, your picks for the basketball game tonight. Who you got? Dallas.
I got Dallas finishing it off.
Dallas in 6 and Canucks in 6. See you guys later. Thanks so much.